The Voyage of I-52. June 23, 1944. Mid-Atlantic Ocean, 870 nautical miles west of the Cape Verde Islands. Commander Uno Kameo stood in the dim control room of the Japanese submarine I-52, a massive cargo vessel bound for German-occupied France. The submarine carried 2 tons of gold, 120 tons of tin, and critical war materials intended for the Axis alliance. Through his periscope, Kameo watched the German U-530 disappear into the darkness after a smooth rendezvous and transfer of radar equipment and technicians. The mission seemed flawless. Within hours, I-52 would surface to make her night run toward Europe. But 3 hours later, the submarine and her 94 crewmen would be dead, victims of an American technology they didn't even know existed. The birth of a new warfare. As I-52 cruised beneath the Atlantic, American aircraft from the escort carrier USS Bogue were tracking her with revolutionary precision. Lieutenant Commander Jesse D. Taylor's Avenger bomber detected the submarine on radar and launched flares, forcing her to dive. Taylor then dropped a new weapon, an expendable sonar buoy known as a sonobuoy. This small floating device transmitted underwater sounds back to the aircraft, allowing Taylor to track the submarine even after it had submerged. Following the signals, he released an acoustic homing torpedo, the Mark 24 Fido, which locked on to I-52's propeller noise and struck home. The sinking was recorded in real time by the sonobuoy's wire spools, preserving the crackling sounds of the submarine breaking apart 17,000 feet below the surface. Technological shock and psychological collapse. The destruction of I-52 sent a psychological shockwave through the Japanese Navy. For the first time, it became clear that American aircraft could track submarines underwater. Every dive for safety was now an illusion. Submarines that vanished beneath the waves were still being hunted by unseen acoustic sensors. These discoveries marked the beginning of a profound crisis in confidence among Japanese submariners. Reports soon described impossible encounters, depth charges falling with uncanny precision, and torpedoes that seemed to chase their targets intelligently. The ocean, once Japan's sanctuary, had become a transparent battlefield dominated by American technology. Japan's submarine fleet at its peak. In 1941, Japan's submarine force was among the most advanced in the world. The Imperial Navy operated over 70 ocean-going submarines, many of revolutionary design. The I-400 class submarine aircraft carriers were the largest ever built, capable of carrying 3 Seirun floatplane bombers to strike distant targets like the Panama Canal or New York. These giants could travel 37,500 nautical miles without refueling, circumnavigating the globe 1.5 times. Japanese engineers incorporated sophisticated features like demagnetization cables, sonar-absorbing coatings, and advanced trim systems. Japanese crews were highly trained and disciplined, their confidence bolstered by early wartime successes around Pearl Harbor and in the Pacific. Strategic missteps and industrial realities. Despite technical excellence, Japan's submarine strategy was fatally flawed. While American submarines focused on commerce raiding, systematically destroying Japan's merchant shipping, Japanese submarines were reserved for fleet support and attacks on warships. This tactical emphasis meant fewer encounters with vulnerable targets and greater exposure to heavily defended enemy fleets. Meanwhile, American industry ramped up submarine production at an industrial scale Japan could never match. Between 1941 and 1945, the United States built 314 submarines. Japan maintained barely 70. American shipyards functioned as synchronized industrial ecosystems, producing standardized parts across dozens of factories. Japanese yards struggled with shortages, bottlenecks, and repair delays that crippled operational readiness. Operation Barney and the fall of the safe haven. By 1945, American technological superiority culminated in Operation Barney, a daring penetration of the Sea of Japan. 9 American submarines equipped with FM sonar, capable of detecting underwater mines, navigated through what Japanese planners considered impenetrable minefields in the Tsushima Strait. The sonar emitted a distinctive Hell's Bells chime to signal nearby mines, allowing submarines to map safe passages. Once inside, they sank 28 Japanese ships in just 2 weeks. The Sea of Japan, once thought invulnerable, was now an American hunting ground. Japanese commanders realized that no waters were safe, no minefields secure, and no technology in their arsenal could restore the balance. Radar, intelligence, and industrial asymmetry. The technological gap extended far beyond sonar. American submarines were equipped with radar capable of detecting targets more than 20 miles away, while Japanese vessels received inferior radar sets only late in the war. Ultra codebreakers compounded the imbalance by decrypting Japanese communications, revealing patrol routes and operational orders before submarines even set sail. Japanese crews reported feeling constantly observed, an accurate perception of an ocean under invisible surveillance. In contrast, American submarines operated with complete logistical support, abundant spare parts, and freedom to fire torpedoes without restraint. Japanese submariners, constrained by shortages, fired conservatively and often returned home with unused weapons. The collapse of Japan's merchant marine. The cumulative result was devastating. By 1945, American submarines had sunk 1,314 Japanese ships, totaling 5.3 million tons, over half of Japan's total merchant losses. Japan's merchant marine shrank from 6 million tons in 1941 to just 2 million by August 1945, with most ships immobilized or destroyed. This strangulation of maritime logistics crippled Japan's war economy. Oil, rice, rubber, and metals could no longer reach the home islands. By mid-1945, American submarines found so few targets that they sometimes spared small vessels to conserve torpedoes. Japan's empire had been cut off, and starvation loomed. Aftermath and the end of an era. When Japan finally surrendered, the surviving submariners saw firsthand the scale of American industrial might. Their awe turned to despair. The massive I-400 and I-401, symbols of Japan's engineering ambition, were surrendered intact, larger than American destroyers, yet operationally irrelevant. Their planned missions, including a bombing raid on the Panama Canal, never took place. Captain Tatsunosuke Ariuzumi, the architect of the I-400 program, committed suicide aboard his submarine rather than face surrender. His death